Good morning, folks. We are having a glorious November day. Usually pretty cold out here this time of year, but we've got sunshiny weather, a little bit of breeze out here, just a fantastic day. We're going to do some tractor projects today. We're going to fix a couple things, we're going to make a couple things, and pretty much spend all day out here in the shop. So stick around, we're going to get some stuff done. Now the first thing I need to do is I've had a tragic accident here on the farm. The whole front end broke off of one of my farm-all tractors. So we're going to get that fixed first off. Well, here she is. I had this sitting on my dresser as a decoration in the bedroom, and it fell off and the whole front axle broke off. So we're going to take some 2-part epoxy and get this back on there. This 2-part epoxy is pretty handy to have around. Creates a really strong bond. Secret is to get equal parts, and I think that's about there, and mix them together. And this thing sets up in like 8 minutes, so we don't have a lot of time. Hardest part is most of the time is getting these things to fit back together correctly after they break. All right, time to do surgery. Let's get some epoxy on this thing. My Q-tip turned into a mop. Use the other end a little bit. That ought to do. See if this will fit here so I can go get what little I got on my hands off of here. Apparently this little thing cost me like $17 back in the day, even though it was made in China. So I don't want to just throw it away. Alright, we got that project done. That was a lot easier than putting the front end back together on the Cub. So we got a welding project we've been wanting to do for a while. So I need to get my welding table cleaned off. Kelly's commandeered part of my shop. She's redoing an old metal cabinet for our bathroom remodel. It's got glass doors that go on it. Pretty cool old cabinet she found. Okay, we have our workspace cleared off. Didn't have too much on there. Still got a little chill here in the shop, so I think I'm going to start a fire in here. When we go to these auctions and stuff, we find things that we need for future projects and we gather them up, and that's how we end up with this pile of stuff here in the back of the shop. One of which was this old receiver hitch off of a vehicle. So when we saw that, it went for dirt cheap, probably a couple bucks. And we immediately knew what we could do with one of these because I've done it before. So what we are going to build with this is a 3-point trailer hitch that we can haul trailers around with. You've seen one time when we built one for the front of the loader for just moving trailers around. But if we want to actually hitch up a trailer and pull it around here on the farm for just regular purposes with the tractor, we don't really have a receiver hitch for the back of the tractor. So this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to make it quick hitch compatible because we have that on the back of the tractor, and I'd rather not remove the quick hitch to put one of these hitches on. So most likely, depending on what our width is here, we're going to have to cut these ends off, and then we'll weld some ears on the back side to put some permanent pins in that will engage the quick hitch. And we're going to add a piece of tubing here with some ears to catch the top link on the quick hitch. I had a piece of tubing in mind for that, but I used them here on the barbecue. Luckily, I have probably some more over here in the pile. So I'm going to go get the tractor and back it up to the door here so I can readily take measurements that I need for the quick hitch. So here is our John Deere quick hitch, which goes on the 3-point of the tractor. Back in the old days, you had to connect these 3 points manually, get everything lined up whenever you changed implements. Now you can back right up to your implement as long as you're quick hitch compatible. Back right up to it, hook it with all these hooks, flick this lever down, which locks in your implement just like that. Pretty slick and a real quick operation. The only thing better than the rear quick hitch is the front quick adapter, or the what do they call it, quick attach. The JD quick attach or the skid steer quick attach is amazing because you had 4 different pins up there you had to try to align, and it wasn't a one-person job. So what we need to measure is center to center on our bottom of our 3-point. We know the top one's in the center, so we don't have to worry about that, but we do need to measure from the bottom of this cradle to the bottom of this cradle so we know our distance, how high we need to make our square tube to for our third or our top link. So we'll get all these measurements made. So rather than try to eyeball that, if you measure from the left side of that one to the left side of this one, that gives you the same thing as going center to center. Now I did see that on our tape down there, we're actually hooked on the little clip instead of actually on the edge. So that's another thing you got to watch out for, is make sure you're hooked correctly on the other end. So right now we're at 28 1/4 center to center on our bottom hooks. Now for your center hook measurement, just lay something across your other ones. Measure up from the underneath side of that to this point here. Now we got to add about 1/8 of an inch because we're using square tubing, and you can see that we're about 1/8 of an inch off the bottom of the hook. So whatever that measurement is, we'll add 1/8 of an inch to it. So we have 14 3/4, but you can see we have adjustment here where we can move this hook up and down, because all of your implements are not standard unless you make them all standard at your own house. These usually come with bolts in them. We have changed them to pins so we can change this top hook on the fly. Now the other measurement we need to know is the width of the pins, and these are about 1 1/4 inches wide. That's only 1 inch wide, 1 1/4 inches there. So that way we know how wide to make our little ears for the pins to go through. So we've got our 28 1/4 center pin measured out on our receiver hitch here. So we're going to be cutting the ends of these off. Now rather than cutting over here and then putting 2 ears and putting a bolt through, I have a couple of these category 2 pins that we scavenged off of something else that we've either thrown away or taken apart or reworked. So we'll use these pins. That way we only need to come off with one ear, something to bolt this through, and then we'll make it so our center pin measurement is on our Cat 2 pin here, and that'll save us a lot of grief. So we'll cut it wherever we need to be. We've got some 1/4x4 that we'll use to make an ear to bolt this through. We'll do that on both sides. So let me get all this unnecessary stuff cut off. We'll cut our tube to the right length. Now when you're scarfing one piece of metal off of the other, you start on the edge of the metal, and because the bottom piece of metal isn't as hot as the piece of metal that you're cutting off, because it's not preheated, it'll cut right off the top of that metal without cutting through into the base metal. So now all we have to do is just get our little grinder and knock these little welds off here. Now we got everything out of the way, we can cut our tubes to the proper length. I think we'll do that on our metal bandsaw. We got our tubing clamped into our bandsaw here, and it wouldn't turn on. So I figured out the switch was bad. So I just took both wires, wired them to the same side as the switch. And that just bypasses the switch. So all we got to do is plug it in and it'll turn on by itself. We'll get a new switch when we go to town. I don't like monkey rigging stuff like that for long periods, but when you need it to work. One more side to go. These side plates are good heavy steel. So we're probably going to use these for the ears that we need to mount our pegs to. We're also going to save these bolts. These are pretty handy bolts if you ever need to bolt anything on the inside of a tube or a frame or something like that where you can't get to the back side. Use these bolts. You feed the bolts up through the hole, put your nut on, and then this piece goes up against the side and you can tighten your nut without having a wrench on the inside. Pretty handy bolts. Got one of our ears marked out here. We're going to leave this little web here that'll give us some side-to-side stability on that ear. We're just going to go ahead and freehand these out with a torch. Okay, the whole bottom part's ready to go. We cleaned all the paint off of the ends so we can weld. Cleaned the paint off the top. Got our brackets cleaned up that we cut. So these brackets are going to go on the side like this. And then they'll have that little web on the bottom to strengthen it. We'll get a weld around these. But first, we need to drill a hole for our pins to go in. Got all of our pieces up. We're ready to tack this bottom piece together here. Now on our Cat 2 pins, we went ahead and cut the threads off because I'm just going to take and weld these in there like that. I clearanced around them a little bit to allow for the weld. That way we don't have to deal with nuts and lock washers and all that mess. So we'll start getting all this tacked together. Got our pieces welded on. So now we got to cut our 2-inch tubing to go up here. Got our piece of square tubing cut. We're going to cut the ears for this now. Get the hole drilled in it. Before we weld it to this, we'll take the whole unit out there, put it on the tractor, set it on there, make sure our length is perfect before we weld all that up. Got our pieces laid out here on our 4x4. I'm going to try out our new blade here. I got this at Husker Harvest Days. It's supposed to take the place of the cutoff wheels. It's never supposed to wear out. And it cuts anything from masonry to metal to just about anything. That's where I got it. Goldfinger cut all. And you can even grind with it because it doesn't get any thinner, so there's no danger of it flying apart. At the farm show, he had that thing running and he beat it on something and it just was like indestructible. Let's see. Well, it cut it, but the blade is so thick it doesn't cut very fast, but in a pinch it'll work. I don't think it's going to take the place of a cutoff wheel because cutoff wheel goes a lot quicker than that. And you definitely need to wear ear protection with that. So we put a regular blade back on. We're going to make this cut that's actually a little bit longer. See if we can do it a little quicker. I don't know about you, but I thought it was quicker and a lot less loud. Let's get these cleaned up. We'll drill a hole in both of them, get them ready to weld on. All right, we got our top link assembly made. I'm going to go ahead and tack this tube on just lightly to where we can get it back off if need be. We'll square it up. I'll lay it over and then we can lay this on the table. Get this tacked on. We'll do some measurements. See if we can get that 14 3/4 of an inch. Well, I think we got it. Let's go give it a try. Well, I'd say that's about perfect. It's going to work pretty cool. All we got left now is just weld her up. I was going to trim a little bit off of here so it didn't interfere, but that'll actually stabilize it, keep this thing from moving forward, so it'll be a lot more sturdier. I think we'll just leave that. Cool deal. Oh, and we're going to cap the top of that square tube there. Well, there she is. We added a little weld-on hook to it also if we wanted to pull anything with a chain. So all we got left now is wipe this thing down and throw some John Deere green on it. Well, we got some John Deere green on it. That's pretty. Turned out pretty nice. I think we'll use this quite often, pulling trailers around the homestead here. If we've got to cut wood or whatever, we can put the little trailer on the back here. So I'm pleased with it. Well, that's another fun project in the books. Probably saved myself a ton of money too. Probably $100 just using scrap out of the shop. So I hope you enjoyed the project too. If you like these projects, we have a playlist called Welding Projects, and there's other individual projects in there as well in the playlist. So come back and see us when you can. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. Come back and see us here on Markelly Farm.